I knew it would sell. I'm a strong believer that like anything can sell. There's someone out there who will buy it. It's just a matter of how many. I think I gained a lot of confidence with all the products that I had launched on Amazon and D2C that everything sold. There wasn't anything that just like sat on the shelf and was a total dud. And so everything sold. And I knew, especially in those days of Amazon, if you played in those days in Amazon, you knew everything sold.
Welcome to the My Wife Quit Her Job podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to have Spencer Jan on the show. Now, Spencer is the founder of Solo Stove, which is a company that he and his brother started and bootstrapped to a $2 billion valuation and multiple eight-figure exits. He's got a crazy story, and today we're going to break down and dissect his path to success. And he's probably going to downplay a lot of his accomplishments, so take everything that he says with a grain of salt. He's an amazing guy. And with that, welcome to the show, Spencer. How you doing?
Good to be here, Steve. I was thinking today too that like it feels like being on your podcast out of all of them is like the rite of passage, sort of like you haven't finished your journey unless you end up on your podcast. So I was excited. I was like, yeah, this is awesome because we've listened. I say we, me and my brother, right, started our company, but I've listened to your podcast for years, like years. And I think it's less about you, to be honest. It's more about like the guests you have on, right? But your
Uh-huh.
story was amazing too, because we started when 2008 blogging. What year did you start doing your blog?
Blogging 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were in that kind of like looking for inspiration and education before you even started. So we saw you pop up because I remember showing where I was like, what a weird title, but it resonated with us because we knew kind of what you were getting at with that.
So Spencer, I know that Solo Stove was not your first venture. I'm just curious how you got into e-commerce in the first place.
Yeah, I shared a lot about that at the ECF conference, and it is something that a lot of people don't know because it's easy to just jump to the headline story and the big numbers and make it sound like it was a straight shot to the finish line, but it was far from that. I started in 2008 blogging.
What was the
Found
blog?
this. The blog was called China Business Traveler,
Okay.
and you could probably find it go on the Wayback Machine, and it all had hyphens between it. So it was China hyphen business hyphen traveler. And I
Okay.
think I spelled I think this is gonna make me sound so bad. I spelled traveler like the British way because the other way was like taken. Because it had like two L's or something. I was like, does it have one L or does it have two L's? And I eventually and so I think I spelt it the way I don't even know if this is right, but to this day I'm like, I think I spelled traveler like wrong. But I did that for like a year through this course that it was a course. It was called SBI. It was called Site Build It.
I know that company.
Yeah,
Yes. Is that still around?
it
Yeah.
still is. I think it transitioned to something else called, I can't remember what it transitioned to, where it is more e-commerce focused.
Okay.
But Site Build It had a lot of blogs back in the day. Like a lot of people were using it. And it was a legit kind of slow and steady, learn SEO, learn all the keyword research stuff. And so I started blogging in '08, thinking that was a way to kind of supplement my income, and did it for a year, didn't make any money. I mean, we're talking less than $100, of which most of it didn't get paid out because I had like one affiliate sale for like a plane ticket, but it wasn't high enough to like reach the payout threshold, and so I never even got the money. But I figured like blogging wasn't for me because I hated writing eventually. And then I was working in China at the time for a sourcing company, and we were sourcing all sorts of products for other people, mostly larger companies, not e-commerce sellers. It wasn't a big thing back in '08. And one of the projects was memory foam mattresses for a retail store in the Pacific Northwest. It was called King's Mattress. And '08 hit, and they didn't pay us for the containers that shipped to them, and it just was a mess. And I had spent all this time figuring out how to make mattresses. And so I was like, oh, I'll just maybe sell these, is kind of the short story of it. And so I started selling memory foam mattresses to other expats that were living and working in Shanghai. So we're talking like Americans, Europeans, guys from Canada and Australia. And so I used my blogging skills to create essentially a blog that had like a buy button. And it wasn't a real buy button. It was a form builder button, or it was called Form Mail. And so you would click it, and then it would go to a form, and then they would fill out what they wanted to order, and then it would shoot me an email. And that's how I started. So I created what was a blog, and then started selling these memory foam
Interesting.
mattresses. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was my first foray into e-commerce. But then it grew into a whole bunch of other brands. I tried a ton of different things, started selling on Amazon, on eBay, doing all of that, and kind of through the years did a lot of different brands. I'd probably say 10 or 12 different brands with hundreds of SKUs.
That's
So
crazy. And you were
yeah.
able to do this because of your background, you were living over there, or?
Yeah, because I was sourcing over there, I had a partner for some of these brands. I partnered the company I was working for. I eventually kind of earned some equity in that company, and so kind of became partners with this guy who had the sourcing company, and we were sourcing all sorts of different products. And so I kind of got him interested enough in saying like, look, I'm playing around with e-commerce. I think it's like the way to go. We can go direct to consumer. We don't have to sell to these big guys anymore, and kind of had this 80-20 rule, like one or two companies make up all your revenue, and it's always a scary position to be in. And so we started taking some of these things that we had access to, or we had found suppliers, or we went out and found new suppliers, and we started playing the Amazon game. And I
What
think
year
back
was
then
this, by the way, for Amazon?
Amazon was probably 2009.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
2009, 2010. It was so early. It was so
Yeah.
easy. It was scary easy. So we got introduced to selling on Amazon by another guy, a friend, and he basically said, "Yeah, I'll teach you guys." And I think he charged us like $15,000, like me and my other business partner in China, to teach us how to sell on Amazon. And we're like, okay, that sounds like a lot, but so and so says you're reputable, and we did it. And he really just had a few phone calls with us telling us what you got to do is look up keywords, find a keyword and put it in your title, put it in your description, put it everywhere. And that was it. Like that was his whole spiel. And we're like, that's it. But really back in those days, that's all you had to do. It was like if you had keywords in your titles, you just shoot up to the top.
Was FBA even around back then?
Yeah, it barely started.
Okay.
I take it back. I don't know. I don't know when FBA started. I can't remember if we transitioned into FBA, but I have a feeling like it was already FBA. If not, it was right around that time.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really early. There were no paid ads.
Yeah.
There was no like none of that stuff. It was just straight. Put your stuff up, take some pictures, and that was it.
So out of all these, it sounded like you had a collection of brands. When did you decide to just double down on Solo Stove?
Yeah, that was it was a long transition, right? Because we started playing with Solo like 2010, and it was a difficult product to get manufactured, and so we kind of shelved it for a while, to be honest, as all these other brands that we were selling on Amazon were just like killing it, and my mattress business was going well, like everything was going well, and so it was hard to know like, oh, this. So we were really thinking like, as most people think, oh, if I can do it with one product, I'll just rinse and repeat with 10 products, and I'll have 10 times the size of a business that I
Right.
want. And that's what we did. And so we started having all these different brands, launching all these new products. The majority of them all did really well. It was just a matter of how much you made on each one that kind of let some rise to the top, and some were, ones that you're like, it's good, it makes money, but not tons. So it was a slow transition because it got to the point where there were so many brands. I had two partners, right? I had my partner who I was working with, who I was working for in his company. He was a guy out of Washington. And so I was running the China side of it. And then my brother, who wanted to get out of his day job, we started blogging together, and I had started to sell mattresses online. I was like, we got to sell stuff. And so I had most of my brands with my other partner in Washington, and then my brother and I started this gardening brand of products, and we started playing there. And we started to realize, like I started to realize, man, this is a lot of work. Like it just all because it was doing so well, it just turned into a lot of work. Like who knew, right? If it's successful, it just snowballs into this a lot of work. And I quickly found myself like kind of up to my eyeballs in it. All good problems to have, but it was like just too much stress, too much work. I felt like I wasn't giving each partner, the right amount of time, and the brands weren't doing as well as I wanted to because it was hard to focus on one. You're always putting out fires. And so I started to have to make like tough decisions. And the eventual decision was to leave my partner in Washington, who lived in Washington, and exit out of that company. I was a minority owner, in that business. And so it felt different, right, to be a minority owner versus with my brother, we were owners. We were 50-50 with that company. And I had to make the decision. I decided while I tried to make it all work, it just wasn't. And I had to make a tough decision to leave that one partner, which was the majority of the brands that were selling on Amazon. And so I was left with just two brands with me and my brother. We played with yet another brand, which is a funny story, but we had less brands. So I cut ties with that. It was tough to do that. It was less about the money than it was the relationship that I had with this guy that I had worked with. My business partner we worked together for 12 years.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it was a long time and it was tough. I remember I actually had that phone call in my car and I cried. Like I shed tears. I was like, this is so like, why is this so hard? Like, why is this so difficult? It had nothing to do with the money. It had nothing to do with, it was just partnerships and people that you work with that build relationships. And then at certain points in time, you have to make tough decisions. And I found myself at that crossroad and had to do it. I just knew I had to do it. And so I cut ties with him. And I remember, yeah, just telling my brother, and I was like in tears, and I was just like, I did it. I finally did it. Like, let's get to work on these two brands that we have.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this question. I know that you originally started this business not necessarily to make money, but just for freedom, right?
Yeah. Lifestyle.
And presumably with all these brands that you were selling, you were probably pulling in a decent amount of money, right? I mean, would you
Yeah.
say you hit seven figures in profit, like net?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's more than enough money. I mean, just I don't know you that well, but it doesn't seem like you're extravagant. I
Yeah.
can't see you driving a Lambo or anything like that.
Right.
So wasn't that enough? Like, did you have this fever to want to make more money or?
Yeah, so it wasn't that if you anybody knows who starts an e-commerce business that does well, like the money when you talk about profits, yeah, it's profits, but it's not profits in my pocket that I can go buy stuff with, right? It's you have to reinvest in the company and you have to go buy more inventory, twice as much before you even need twice as much because you know and you can see that things are going so well that you're going to run out of inventory. And so all your money and all your profits after first Uncle Sam takes his cut, which I think most budding entrepreneurs don't realize that 40% you got to set aside of your monthly profits so that you can pay the tax bill. And then you have to reinvest it all into new product. And 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 not only that, for me, the way I've always operated, right, as an entrepreneur, you're always scared about something. Like while it's going good, like in hindsight, yeah, it was like great for many years. But while you're in it, you're always like, is this like how long is this really going to last?
Yep.
Do I got 1 year? Do I have 2 years? I see more and more people coming on board, selling more things. Like, you know who I didn't like? I didn't like the guy who started like podcasting about Amazon. What was his name?
There's a ton of those
It was
guys.
like the early guy, and he had great content. Amazing freedom or something like that. I can't.
Uh-huh.
Scott Volker, that
Oh,
was his
Scott.
name.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
real nice guy. I have nothing bad to say about him. I just didn't like the idea that all the secrets were now out there, and like all this
Ah,
education because I was always fearful of like everybody's coming in now. Like I wasn't out there telling everybody how to do this. I was like, why doesn't everybody be quiet? You know, why doesn't everybody just stay low, lay low, and we can all ride this as long as we can? And so it was a constant fear of like this is going away, while at the same time having to reinvest in the company to keep it afloat. That we didn't get any money. Like I never got a lot of money in my pocket, and so it was this realization that like it's going to be hard to actually pay myself something. We really got to get to big numbers to where I can actually take a six-figure salary out of this thing. Um,
interesting.
and
Okay.
maybe it wasn't, maybe we're really conservative. Think about it. We were coming out of '08. Our sourcing company almost went under. We went from like 20 some odd people down to like five because we had to lay them all off because it was '08. It was financial crisis. It was like, don't take any debt. Debt is bad. Like companies can go under in the blink of an eye. Let's go really conservative. So all the money went back in. So it wasn't that I wanted to make even more money. It was like, how in the world do I even get paid out of this thing?
Right.
Like, I guess I got to make it bigger.
Interesting. The reason why I'm asking all these questions is my wife and we came to a similar situation at one point, but then we just said to ourselves, you can actually control your growth. It's kind of, you know what I mean? Like you can let those products maybe go out of stock or not place that large bet on inventory. But it's an ego thing also, and it's also I can't describe it in words, but like you want it to do well and it's doing well and you want to take advantage of it while it lasts. So that's why you're investing a lot more. It becomes like kind of like this vicious cycle.
Yeah, I think that's what I would say. And that's why, like, even in my slide, it was like a snowball kind of
Yeah.
chasing you down a hill. It was like, I wanted to make a big snowball, but then it kind of starts eating you up. And then you're like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
And that was a sense of like, that was a transition of like letting things go and focusing down on solo stove or just focusing with my brother and saying, like, I got to choose one path here because I, I did essentially what you and your wife did, right? You controlled growth. And I did it by kind of stepping away from one partner and a bunch of
Right.
brands and then throttling it back down because we went from selling a whole lot and then now I'm with one partner, my brother, and we're selling less. And so it did throttle it, and we did find more balance over the years. I mean, it kind of sounds short and easy, but this was over a span of like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So we did find good balance, and I think we kind of were seeking for the same thing that you and your wife, for the same reasons you guys said, let's control growth. We did. I did. I mean, I parted with a partner, left a ton of money on the table. I didn't ask for a multiple when I exited. We kind of just looked at book value and then even gave a discount on that because I was like, I'm not out to hurt you, and I let him pay over many years.
Mhm.
The equity that I had in the company. So yeah, I mean, I kind of throttled growth that way.
Let's talk about Solo Stove. Are you a product designer?
So no, oh, well, I take that back. Not by like education, or I don't have a certificate, but I think I'm a pretty decent product designer. Like I think a lot of people don't give them credit for ideas that they might have or creativity that's within them when it comes to product. I mean, everybody uses something and is like, why in the world do they make it this way? Like they should change it to be like this and it would be way better. Like we all have those experiences. And I think I just went with that. And I think I'm more creative than I am good with numbers. Like I like the creative side of things. And so I do like playing with products. Maybe it's my
I
generation of
remember
like,
in your speech, I think you opened with "You're an Asian that's bad at math."
yeah, it's so true. And what was funny is I met a guy at ECF and we were talking, then we were talking about our kids' ages. And he was like, so what year did you have your daughter? And I couldn't do the math in my head. And he was like, are you kidding me? You take your age, her age, and minus it down. And I was like, yeah, I'm so bad at math. So for anybody out there who thinks they're bad at math and can't start a business, there's definitely hope.
So your Solo Stove or your first version of that product, it's a pretty complicated product to manufacture and design, right?
Yeah.
So did you just pick up a CAD tool and learn how to use it and start designing, or how did it
Yeah,
work?
no, I mean, paper and pencil for sure.
Okay.
And we were able to kind of draw things out and kind of, from sourcing, my experience in sourcing, played a role because I had dealt with a lot of product development. And so I understood how things are made, and I understood how drawings are made and how to call things out on drawings and how to show a manufacturer that like this is the radius I want on this corner. Like I can't do it in CAD, but I can tell them, and I can sure write it on a piece of paper and then have them create CAD drawings or have somebody create CAD drawings off of my rough sketches,
Mhm.
my chicken scratches that I'll just kind of move around, or even using a simple app on your computer to kind of draw things out. So yeah, it was a matter of sketching it out, drawing it out roughly, coming up with an idea of this is the size I want, this is how I want spacing in there, and these are the radiuses I want, and then drawing it out, and then getting eventually a CAD drawing made to where you can say, yep, that's kind of what we want. Here are the tolerances that we can accept in these areas, and then going to town on it. It's a difficult product to
Well,
manufacture.
how long did it take you actually to create that first product?
I would say it took us from the moment we started like playing with the idea to actually making it was probably close to 2 years
Wow. Okay.
because we
Yeah.
shelved it for a while. We started trying it, we went down the road, but remember, we were doing all these other products as well. I had another partner and we were doing tons of other products, and all of it was selling. And so there wasn't this no like, it was kind of take the path of least resistance. And the solo stove path was a path of highest resistance. Like it was so difficult to make.
Yeah.
And if you think about going to a manufacturer and saying like, here's a very difficult product, we got to spend a ton of tooling, right? We got to tool up. It even requires specialized machinery to make, and I'm only going to purchase like $5,000 worth of this stuff. Like nobody wants to take a bet on you at that
Right.
point,
Yeah.
right? They're like, well, yeah, if you're going to buy hundreds of thousands, then they'd probably do it. But we were so conservative and so small that we were like, yeah, it's like most we can buy is like $5,000 worth of this stuff, and so for that reason, it's difficult to find a manufacturer who's willing to dive in and do all of that, development with you side by side to then have what, like 5 grand and have
Yeah.
their like line run for half a day and then, stop. So, people don't understand like the training that has to happen within a factory for the workers who are actually, working the machines. It takes a long time to train people up to tell them what to do and how to do it correctly. When you're stamping products on a machine or doing deep draws, you have to adjust tooling on the machine, and it's this constant like, okay, set the tools now. Put a piece of metal in there and draw it down, and then it's totally off and it's totally bad. Then they have to adjust it. And these are huge tools that have to be lifted with like forklifts and chains. And it can take an entire day to dial in the tools on a machine, and a lot of scrap and a lot of waste that has to happen as they're punching these things down. I don't know what a good analogy for that is like, but it takes time to kind of dial things in to where it can then start pumping things out really
Well, how
good.
did you convince the manufacturer to do all that work just for a small order?
Yeah, that's why it took us so long, really, is the short of it. And then when we did find the right guy, we just hit it off. It's like dating. That's what I tell people when you're sourcing and you're finding a manufacturer, like it's like dating. You have to find people who like you for whatever reason. Like I don't know if it was my personality. I don't know if it's like, the challenge of seeing if we can get this thing to work that he was interested in, like the dynamics that were going on in his business, in his head. I'm not sure exactly why he wanted to do it. I think it was more so the challenge of like, this is difficult and this is challenging and I've never done something this hard. And I think it's a cool project and I want to see if I can do it. It was more like a hobby or like
Hmm.
a challenge for him. And so we tackled it together and we just built a good rapport together doing this, and turned out extremely well for him and extremely well for us. Yeah, it was extremely difficult. I mean, that's why I say, man, I got lucky a lot of times, right? Because I met a lot of suppliers who were just like, nope, 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 or I want to do it but can't do it. I don't have the right machinery and I'm not willing to invest. And so a lot of stars had to align for me to feel like I got lucky and found a good supplier. Like it really did just come down to
Were
luck.
you in China during the
Ye-
production, like managing everything?
Yeah, at that
Okay.
time when we started Solo, my brother was here in the States, here in Texas, where I'm at now, and I was on that side, really dialing in the supply chain and getting things going.
Let me ask you that. Did you think that that was necessary for you to be over there for this complicated of a product?
I mean, I guess if you're asking, could somebody do it if they weren't in China? Sure, I'm sure someone could. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Does it help that I was in China? Yes, absolutely. Does it help that I can speak Mandarin? Yes, absolutely. Like, did it help to have, years and years of experience dealing with suppliers and finding suppliers and understanding, how to build relationships with them? Yes, like all of that played in to us being able to kind of dial things. But you look at great companies like, I don't know, I can't think of any off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure there's tons at ECF that were at ECF that never lived in China, don't speak Mandarin, and can still make amazing products. So I think we all have like advantages that we can lean on to give us a leg up. Where I'm bad at math, right? I was good at sourcing products, and where somebody else is a whiz at math that can figure out that, this is how much you need to save for taxes every month. Where I faltered in that, and one year I was like, we got stuck with like a $400,000 tax bill that I thought we were prepared for, but we barely saved up enough money for that and almost like dried out our company because I was like, yeah, just going by my gut feel of like what the numbers should be. And obviously I was horrible at that and horrible at planning with numbers.
Mhm.
So I think we all have strengths that we can lean on. And I think you should double down on what you're good at and then solve for the parts that you're not.
So you have this product that you took 2 years to develop. So one, did you know that it was going to sell during those 2 years? And then two, how did you sell your first units?
Yeah, I knew it would sell. I'm a strong believer that like anything can sell. There's someone out there who will buy it. It's just a matter of how many, right? And so I think I gained a lot of confidence with all the products that I had launched on Amazon and D2C, that everything sold. There wasn't anything that just like sat on the shelf and was a total dud. And so everything sold. And I knew, especially in those days of Amazon, if you played in those days in Amazon, you knew everything sold. Like it was just a matter of how
Actually, when I
much.
started, everything sold also, and that was 2015, 2016, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really helped in that area of confidence, which made me believe like, yes, this will sell. I don't know how much. And I think a lot of people get stuck on that, in terms of like, is there, all the buzzwords of product market fit and like, have you done your research? I was like, what kind of research would you do? Like, ask people if they would buy it. Like, I don't even know what you would do to get something of like statistical significance at a small, like you're just two guys. Like, what are you going to do to figure out if this thing's going to sell? In my mind, the best thing to do is just go sell it. Like, try to, like, don't sink in too much money and then go try to sell it. And if it sells well, then just double down, right? And then order more product and then start developing it out. But if it fizzles and dies, or you're stuck with $5,000 worth of product that sells over the next 5 years, you can still get rid of it all and give it away for Christmas presents, throughout the years. And so it was never a big
Yeah.
risk to me. But no, we did not know how much we could sell, or how well it would sell right off the bat.
How
And
much
we
did you
were we were
invest? How much money
surprised.
did you invest in product development to get like your first order?
Yeah, so we put in $15,000, to start that company, and that's it. And so
That's
for
not a
first,
lot at all.
it's not a lot because a
Yeah.
lot of it went to, ordering the first product, and some of it went to tooling and paying for software and paying for, a shopping cart, and get like all of it together. It was like we needed to make it work with all that money. All the freight, like all the shipping and freight and all that stuff was kind of baked into the fact that like we had $15,000 to work with, and that's it. And that's how we grew
Okay,
it.
that's much lower than I would have expected. Okay, wow, that's amazing. Okay, so you get your product, you list on Amazon, it sells like hotcakes. Walk me through the progression from there, actually.
Yeah, like whittling down kind of like focus. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from there, um, things continue to do really well. We started selling other products, gardening products. We had a
Was
gardening
this an
site,
Amazon only product, by the way, or were
the
you
gardening
selling
stuff.
DTC? Just the solo stove.
We had set up a website as well. Yeah. So me and my brother were kind of big on websites, like our own D2C sites, like our own .com sites, because I had kind of gained that experience through selling mattresses. And I realized early on that like you can have your own site and you can have traffic to it, because I understood how you can build traffic by blogging, right? Like through blogging, I understood that traffic could be built,
Mhm.
right? While I knew Amazon had traffic and that was a great way to basically print money, I also knew you could have your own site and you can also develop your own traffic. And so that wasn't foreign to me. In fact, it was more like attractive because you can be more creative when you're driving traffic to your site. And so we had stuff on Amazon, and that's where the majority of sales came from, but we did have our own sites that we would set up because we knew like people would check us out, like, is this a legit brand? What does their website look like? And so we had, from the get-go, me and my brother were really strong in building our own sites.
Mhm.
And some of the other products, like gardening products, just never took on our own .com as hard as we tried, and those did really well on Amazon. And we eventually started selling. Me and my brother are pretty clean, cut, dry guys. We don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't do drugs, and but we were thinking, as we were selling these gardening products, like we got to even out the seasonality of gardening. Like, how do we even do that? And we started researching product. And my brother stumbled upon like these things called grow lights, and he was like, "Oh, like people grow stuff indoors using these things called grow lights that like mimic the sun." And I was like, "That's ingenious. That's so cool." And we're like, that could even out the winter months. Like people could grow indoors. And so we were trying to even out our seasonality, and we ended up like selling grow lights and starting a website called superledgrowlights.com. and we brought in like thousands of dollars worth of these grow lights, only to eventually find out that people don't grow like tomato cherries and
Yeah.
like cilantro indoors. And we were so naive to the fact that like people were they were asking about what the heat signature is from the roadside, and we are like, what is that? Why do they even care? Because like cops in the days would use a heat gun and kind of see what houses are glowing from the street
Ah,
side to see who's cooking stuff inside,
right, right.
or who's growing weed and marijuana in there. And so we were like, this is so weird. And so we eventually figured out that everybody was using it to like grow weed. And we and we were like, we got to get out of this. And so we shut that down and we closed it up. And we just sat on that. We sat on those grow lights in our garage. I don't even know what we did with them. I think a lot of them we threw out. But that was another one that we started our own website, and we're selling on Amazon as well and all this stuff. And but we started whittling down because things started going really well on all fronts. The gardening stuff was doing well. Our solo stove was doing really well, and and we had started another brand called Fox Outfitters, and that was another camping Me Too. So you kind of see this, like, do you see how like things are just like we're just rinsing and repeating,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
kind of like causing our own problems by doing this, right? We haven't found out how to find that balance of just saying enough's enough. Let's just hold it steady. We're just in this
Did you have
constant state of
employees
like
during this time, by the way, or was it
no
just you and your
employees.
brother?
Yeah, just me and my brother the whole
Wow,
time.
crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So we had Fox Outfitters, we had Solo, we had at one time Super LED grow lights, and we had this other one called the Garden Cloche, which were these these plastic seedling coverings that would act as like a mini greenhouse on seedlings. And they were all selling well. Everything was doing well. Which again, we found ourselves, well, I found myself in that same problem of like, we built something that we didn't really want. It was like too good. Everything was going too good. And so we started to try to figure out what the next step was to kind of regain that lifestyle that we were in search of, and the reason why we started these companies. And that led us to, let's sell and get rid of this stuff. Like, let's sell it all and just exit out of the company and see if we can't start again. We were trying to build that 4-hour work week lifestyle company, and we were obviously doing okay, making money along the way, but having a hard time finding that kind of autopilot mode where it's a great company that's going to last forever and it's just printing you money every day. That smart passive income, right? That Pat Flynn was always talking about was always the elusive goal of like, he's figured it out. Why can't we figure it out, right? Ours always end up turning into something way more than we bargained for. And that's took us to 2016, and we decided, okay, it's too much. It's more than we bargained for. We're working way too much on this stuff. Let's sell it. And
Sell all of
that's
it, everything.
yeah, we wanted to sell all of it and just start again. I don't know what we were going to start, or maybe it was, if we could get enough money, maybe that would be enough. Is one of the thoughts. The other thought was like, we can start again and build a better business that doesn't turn into a snowball chasing us down the hill.
Let me ask you this question. Was it really hard time-wise because you didn't have a lot of employees? I mean, you didn't have any employees?
Yeah, it eventually got hard. And I'll tell you why it got hard is because we were still pretty protective of our time, right? We still were trying to live this lifestyle. We were trying to walk the walk and live a lifestyle that was balanced, that we had enough time for our family. We both have kids. So we both had small kids, in the toddler age, and or we want to spend time with the family and with our wives and on ourselves, right? Is your physical health and your mental health and your spirituality and all these things, that your hobbies, like I wanted it all, and that meant that while I was walking the walk and enjoying this lifestyle, the hours that I was working, which was your standard, I wouldn't say 9 to 5. It was probably more like 8 to 6
Sure.
at
Yep.
most. We had to do more in those hours than ever before. And so it was really stressful, really compact, really like high pressure in those hours that we were working. And then we kind of turned it off and then tried to go do, live our lives. And so it just was this built up pressure because we weren't stretching out. I take that back. There were times where we were working into the wee hours of the morning, and it eventually got there, right? Where we were working way more than we wanted to. Kids go to bed and then you flip open the laptop and keep going. We were doing all our customer service. So that's like a constant nag on you, is like, you don't want to let those tickets sit for more than they should. And so we'd hop back on, get through customer service. So then the next morning we'd let it pile back up again. And so yeah, it got really busy.
I guess my question for you is, why didn't you hire?
Yeah. It's so funny hearing other people say it, like, duh. And even in my mind, I'm like, yeah, like that's how like novice of a business person I was, I guess, in starting a company. And that we didn't, I mean, we did think to hire Steve. It wasn't a matter of like, we never thought about it. I thought about it, but I was always under this impression that we wanted to build this company that didn't have anybody in it, because
Hmm.
we didn't like managing people. We're
Right.
not great people managers, and the dynamics of people is just difficult. We're working from our homes, and so it's this big friction to like, now we got to get an office and go in 9 to 5 and be there to be with them. It's like, what about our lifestyle business? Our whole lifestyle business was flexibility, so that if we needed to pop out in the middle of the day, or if we wanted to go, you know, fishing from 10 in the morning till 2, we could, knowing that we could make those hours up somewhere else. And so this thought of like going down that road was going against everything that we wanted to build. Like, our ideal company was one that gave us our lifestyle, gave us enough money, and most importantly, gave us that freedom and flexibility. And employees just was everything. It was like it was everything against that, what we
I
were
can
trying to
completely
build.
relate to everything that you're saying, and that it's just funny because I know most people, they tend to think that hiring employees is pretty glamorous. It's the
Right.
opposite for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and me too. And
Yeah.
we, because even the complexities of it, right? Is like, I like the marketing, I like making product, I like e-commerce, I like all the tactics and that stuff. Then you think about, okay, employees, one, I don't even know how to do that, because what do I have to do? Do I have to, like, how do I even do payroll now? And do I have to offer benefits? Like, and where will they sit? Like, do I have to buy them all their equipment? And then like, who's going to even teach? Like, do I have to teach them? Like, all of these thoughts I think ran through our heads, and it just was a lot of friction
Right.
for us to be like, that's the right path. It doesn't seem like it if it feels like a lot of friction. But in hindsight, right, should we have hired earlier? I think, yeah, I think we probably could have hired earlier. I think we probably could have hired to a point where it was running smoothly and doing really well, and maybe we didn't have to go down a path of selling it. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and I think there's a lot of curvy paths to the same destination. And the beauty of owning your own business is you get to choose your own adventure, for better or for worse. And I think we chose the way we did it, and
Yeah.
it did eventually lead to building out a team and growing. As we figured out, if we are to exit this thing, then there's a clear path that we need to follow, which is a little bit counterintuitive to
Did you
what
enjoy
some
that path?
of selling.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I did not. I mean, well,
Okay.
what I'll tell you, it's type 2
Yeah.
fun, right? It's type 2 fun, where while you're in it, it's horrible. Like, it's like self-abuse, and you don't know why you're doing this to yourself. And then you get through to the other side, and you're like telling other people all the cool stories, and yeah, like, I did this, I did that. And I think you kind of forget all the pain that you went through, or you have selective memory. And
It's
so
like
when I'm
having
talking to,
kids.
well, yeah, I don't dare go down that road, because I'm not, I did not give birth to my kids. My wife did that, and I would never say that it was that difficult. But yeah, I mean, I think the analogy holds in that, you forget about some of the pain. But no, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it because we were doing everything that we didn't want to do, that we tried not to do. But I did it because it was a means to an end.
Right.
It was means to the end. And in 2016, we tried to sell the company. It had Fox Outfitters and it had Solo Stove, and Fox Outfitter was the majority of the revenue and profits, and Solo Stove was kind of the little brother that had a lot of potential. And that's really the short story of it. Is we came out of it knowing that nobody really wanted our Amazon company, our Amazon brand that was doing millions of dollars, and people were more interested in this little brand that we had built that has momentum on its .com, right, on its D2C. While we were still selling a lot on Amazon, there was glimmers of hope for this brand. There was glimmers of hope in the IP. There was glimmers of hope in product development, and what it could turn into. And that's what we ended up doubling down on and letting go of Fox. We actually sold it to some guys in Houston who wanted to get dip their toes into e-commerce. And we sold it for pennies on the dollar. We just let go of the
I
inventory.
know, that's amazing. That's a tough decision right there.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
tough. It was a little bit sad to kind of do it that way. While we were selling it, I was honestly telling, me and my brother had a conversation of saying, like, the people would ask us, "What are you going to do if we don't buy this?" And I remember telling them, I was like, "I don't care if you don't buy it. It's a great deal. It's pennies on the dollar. I just want it off my books because I got to clear up my books and clear up my warehouse and all this stuff we got to get ready for the dance, and the stuff's in the way." And I said, "I don't care if you don't buy it, because in my heart of hearts, I could go turn this thing into a multi-million-dollar business after I'm done and I have time. Like, I know I could do that." And so it was this like feeling of, man, this is good for someone. This could be the difference of somebody working in their, day job, hating life and finding freedom. Like, this is a tool that could do that. And I just hate to feel like I just toss it to the side. But the truth is we didn't have time to sell it the right way. We didn't have time to try to go through diligence with someone on it. It was, this is what it is. Do you take it or leave it? And if you want it, I'll give it to you for pennies on the dollar, and it's yours. And that's kind of how we let go of the majority of our revenue and profits at that time, and in 2016, and then doubled down on Solo Stove.
Wow. Spencer, I want to shift gears a little bit. And I know you had an amazing exit. You probably don't need to work another day in your life. What are your future plans?
So, and we were talking a bit about this before we hit the record button, but I've really loved diving into like content creation. I think it's the creative side of me that needs an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I registered my own company. I got an office space that has a whole bunch of offices and a front room, and got a whiteboard, and just started thinking about how can I give back, and help others, like find value and find freedom through entrepreneurship. And not that that's the only way, but it's the way I know, and it's the experiences I have that I can give and offer. And so I'm trying to find a way to do that in scale and try to help others explore the path of entrepreneurship as a viable path to, one, a career, and then two, a better lifestyle. And while it was a difficult road for me, I think it's possible, and I think it's I think entrepreneurship is net positive, right?
Oh,
Jobs are
yeah, for sure.
created, the
Yeah.
ripples effect of someone being able to start a company and provide for their family and for other families, and what it does in society. I think it's a good thing. And so I'd like to continue to find ways to champion entrepreneurship. I started a YouTube channel that talks about entrepreneurship and e-commerce, but I'm starting to
What's the
even
channel called,
transition.
Spencer?
It's just Spencer Jan. So if you just look up my name,
Okay.
you'll see my mug up there making funny faces as I try to win the thumbnail game. but but I'm trying to transition to actually just visiting more companies, and not and venturing outside the realm of e-commerce. Like, I want to go visit a donut shop, and I want to go visit somebody who opened a flower shop, or somebody who started a car wash, because all of these are valid businesses. And I think the learnings that I have while they lend towards e-commerce companies, I think the fundamental principles still translate to other businesses. And I feel like telling other people's stories in those lights, whether it's a mobile dog wash station, or yesterday I was at a skincare clinic of a female entrepreneur who started this company that now has 2 clinics here in DFW and is making amazing money. I want to tell more of those stories. So hopefully I kind of get to that point, and hopefully it resonates with people and helps people explore that entrepreneurial bug or itch that a lot of us have.
I was just thinking, just listening to your voice right now, I think you should do a podcast too, in addition to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, that might be. I think I've enjoyed being on podcasts, and I enjoy talking with others. I think that's what I get out of it. I kind of am searching for that kind of fulfillment, right? Because chasing dollars and numbers really is a pretty empty thing to do.
Yep.
And so I've realized that I gain a lot, and I learn a lot, and I enjoy talking with others and hearing their stories, meeting other people like yourself and all the people that we met at ECF. Like, to me, that's super rich and fulfilling. and then being able to find opportunities to help those people and those listening. Maybe I go down the route of podcasts, and then I need to pick your brain and figure out how to set it all up. I'll tell you what, I have bought so much equipment that Amazon is about to ban me because I buy it all and then I return most of it because I'm like, oh no, I need a different mic. Oh no, that one didn't work. So just this learning experience of like how to set things up properly has been fun for me.
If you want to see more amazing interviews with successful entrepreneurs, then check out this next interview right here. I think you'll enjoy it and you'll definitely be inspired.